drawn to it. So.
So I mean, you were brought up in faith. You obviously had a foundation built on it.
Yeah.
And you walked away from God for a period of time. How long was that period?
You know, I guess to some degree it you want to think. I guess this, in a way you want to. It depends how you define walking away from God.
Sure.
Did I walk away from God as far as my actions were concerned? Yes, absolutely. Did I still pray every day? Yeah. I remember, and this is funny, a gangster taught me this. We were actually in a car, and we were out to go bang, you know, and for those that don't know, gang banging basically just kind of finding someone from the opposite gang and just causing trouble. So like 6, 7 of us got up in the car, and I was young at the time. The driver got into the car, and I remember he had a rosary on his mirror, and he grabbed the rosary and he did the sign of the cross right before we left. And so I prayed every day, even before I did bad things. It was crazy. Before I got into a fight or knew I was going to do something dumb, I was like, "Dear God, please keep me safe. You know, Dear God, please make sure I get home safe." Which was very contradictory, but for some reason I still did it.
Right.
So my actions, did they run away from God? Absolutely.
But you still had him in mind. You still believed.
Every second, everything I did, I had him in mind because he was. It's almost as if he wouldn't allow himself to leave me, you know?
That's kind of weird. Like, you never think about that, but, like, just because someone is a gangster doesn't mean that they don't have a relationship with God. The
closest relationships to God, I personally believe, have been G's, yo. Like, and I think, and I don't wish this on anybody, but I think the people that went through all that hard knock life, that went through all that stuff, they, at that same time, or after, are just always somehow drawn to God, you know. And it might be the ministry thing where when Jesus said, He's not here to save the good people because they're already saved. He's here to save the sinners. So I don't know. It's a mystery of God, but yeah, the most faithful people I know, even to this day, that do their ministry had hard knock lives, were gangsters because they experienced it, they lived it, they survived it, and now they see the blessings, and the blessings are just that much more illuminated for them because they didn't have it before.
Sure.
So,
well, what was it that made you want to, I'm not saying walk away from God, but start walking with Him, like following Him rather than following your own desires?
There was 2 incidences that happened in my personal life that happened to me. The first, I can't remember the exact order, but the first incident was, I'll just say this first incident was, I was what they call in gang terms marked for death. And long story short, a gang member from the opposite gang that I was hanging out with was assuming that I was hanging out with his girlfriend. He wasn't having it, so he marked me for death. And so I called a bunch of my boys that day and told them what was going on, and he was going to do a hit on me that night at my house. So my boys came over, and mind you, I'm in 8th grade at this time. You know, I'm in 8th grade at the time. And my boys came over late at night, and right when they got into my bedroom, he pulled out a strap, and he took his strap, and I took the bottom of my dresser, I pulled it out like my sock drawer, and we hid the straps and everything underneath there until about midnight when my family was asleep. So around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, we sneak out of my house and we go into the front of my house, and we're just lined up, and we're looking at the end of the street. And I remember, I never got into weapons myself, you know. I was always too scared. My dad always taught me, if you want to be a man and you want to handle it with these. You don't got to handle it with a gun or nothing like that. But my boys were strapped up, and so they had their straps, and they're pointing at the end of the street, and they're just waiting for the next car to come by, just in case it was him. And I remember I'm looking at them with their straps out, and I remember I'm looking at the side of my house, and I'm looking at them again. I'm looking at the end of the street, and I look at my house, and I'm like, yo, my grandma, my younger brother, my 2 younger brothers, and my younger sister, my mom, my dad, my uncle, and my dogs are in there right now, innocently sleeping. Same people that fed me, that believed in me, that pray with me, that take me to church, that do everything that a family needs to do for their kid. And here I am, waiting for someone to do a drive-by at my house. And chances are, I'm not going to be the one that gets hurt. It's going to be them that's inside. So at that moment, I told my boys, like, yo, they come. I don't know what to tell you. Just get out of here. I can't be having this at my house. So I went inside, and I remember I just went inside and went to bed, and I just prayed, like, just don't let nothing happen to the house. And fortunately, nothing ever happened. He never came by or whatnot. The second incident was I was gonna spend the night at my boy's house. I think we were gonna go out banging that night. And so I was telling my mom, I'm gonna go spend the night at so and so's house and whatnot. She was like, no, you can't. You're gonna have to stay home. And I think she had a mother's intuition or whatnot. I was gonna get into trouble that night. She kept saying no, and I was fighting with her. When my grandma comes around into the kitchen, she hears me and my mom fighting, and I had long bangs at the time. It was the cool haircut at the time. My grandma takes my hair, and she's shaking my head, and she's just so mad, and she's screaming at me in Filipino and Tagalog. Basically, stop. Why are you doing this? And she's a short little lady, and as she's shaking my head and she's got a handful of hair, she freezes and she stops. And she falls over like a board and has a heart attack right there in front of me in the kitchen. And I didn't know. The first thing that came to mind was CPR. I didn't know CPR. I just whatever I saw on posters or movies. So I just pumped her chest, and I was just blowing in her mouth, and she started breathing again. And I picked her up, and I took her into her bedroom, and I laid her there. And I walked back in the kitchen, and there's my mom crying at the kitchen table. And then she's holding her head, she's crying. And all she could say was, she says, Oneil, what did I do wrong for you to do this to us? Like, tell me what I need to change, what I need to do to make you happy so you don't do this. And it struck me like, I'm the one messing up. I'm the one doing all this stuff. And here's my mom, the one, it's my mom's. And she's blaming herself for my actions. And from then on, I laid low. I was like, you don't make your mom cry. You know what I mean? Like, grown men, you do not make your mom cry. It's supposed to be the other way around when she's whooping your butt for doing something bad. And that was, I'll never forget that. And I think that's what brought me back. I was like, I need to come back to God. I need to just pray and actually really do what I pray about, and focus on that, and not do this to my family, not do this to God. It's just not cool. So,
did you have any cool experiences where God kind of intervened, as far as like, okay, so you make this decision, right? And then there's got to be some circumstances that lead you to draw closer to Him or into some type of group, or did He provide any of those things in your path from that time when you were ready to accept Him?
Yeah, it was. Most of the trouble that I got into in my life was 8th grade. It was most of the stories that I just told you happened in that one school year, actually, per se. The very following year, according to the church, we have to start registering for classes, confirmation classes and whatnot. And so I came in here, I registered for the class, and we had a retreat here, and it was this retreat that we had here, that 3-day retreat, that just it grabbed me. And this was 14, 15 years ago, and here I am to this day performing that exact same retreat. So if there was a starting point, like a hardcore starting point where it just grabbed me, it was that retreat. It was it was being here. So
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, man.
Absolutely, man. No,
Right
thanks.
on.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
That's what's up.